Don't you love when you finish a movie and think to yourself that everything you've seen in the movie now has a different meaning, and you start thinking of plot points that the directors hinted at throughout the movie? This list is going to be 10 WTF horror and mystery movies that make you question everything you've seen once the credits start rolling. There will be no spoilers throughout this list, as that would obviously give away the endings to the movies, so you don't have to worry about that by watching this video. With that being said, here we go. Number 11. Time Lapse. 2015. Time Lapse is about three friends and roommates that discover a mysterious machine in a house across the street from them, and they believe they may have been peeping on them because the lens is pointed right at their living room window. Two of the roommates, Callie and Finn, are dating each other, and then the third wheel roommate is named Jasper. Jasper and Finn have been best friends since elementary school, so they are really close. The trio heads over to the sketchy house one day, and when they break inside, there is no one living there anymore, but there are hundreds of snapshots on the wall that were taken from the device. They soon discover that this isn't a normal camera, as it has the capability of taking a picture once every 24 hours into the future. They start using the device to win money by horse betting and other personal gains they can get from seeing in the future. It is all fine until the friends start becoming angry with each other because dark secrets are hidden way down deep inside their friendship. Number 10. Black Box. 2020. Nolan Wright is just your normal, everyday middle-class man until one day, he and his wife are in a tragic car accident, and sadly his wife dies, but Nolan lives. But in result of the car crash, Nolan has lost most of his memory and suffers from a severe case of amnesia. It is just him and his daughter Ava now, but since Nolan doesn't remember everything about who he is, Ava has to help him do basic tasks every single, and she is pretty much all he really has in his life now. Looking for a treatment to help with his amnesia, he meets with a neurologist named Dr. Brooks, and she tells Nolan that she thinks he would be the perfect candidate for her black box treatment, which hasn't exactly been approved by the medical field, so they have to do it under the books. Nolan agrees to the treatment, but after he gets done with it, he starts seeing weird faces and monsters in his everyday life, and also memories that don't seem to be his own. But on a positive side, Nolan is starting to remember his own life and memories, but he still is puzzled why he has someone else's memories, and he is determined to get to the bottom of it. Number 9. Coherence. 2014. Coherence is definitely a doozy and will confuse you with what is exactly going on through the whole movie, as a comet is flying by that night, and we know that means strange things are coming. Coherence follows a group of adult friends that are now married with successful lives, but are meeting for dinner to catch up with each other and see how everyone has been. While eating their dinner, a blackout happens across the whole neighborhood, so a few of them go outside to check if anyone else has power around them. They go walking around the other house, and then after a while, they return, but something is off with them. These guys don't remember certain things happening that happened before the blackout, and everyone comes to the conclusion that they aren't the same guys that left. They are identical clones, and all of their parallel realities are interlinked with one another because of the comet. There are at least 5 different sets of dinner parties, and they must use their wits and brains to make it back to their actual reality before they get stuck in the wrong one forever. Number 8. Mind Games. 2012. A group of friends are heading to an old friend's cabin in the woods for the weekend to get away for a while and to help alleviate some stress for the final exams they will be taking the week after. As they are driving their van, something pops out in the middle of the road and they swerve off of the road and bust their radiator. The group is then forced to walk the rest of the way to the cabin, and once they arrive, they notice a mine that is in the woods behind the cabin. They also notice a note in the inside of the cabin that tells them to stay put, and the owners of the cabin will be back soon. The group of kids enjoy themselves for a night, and whenever the next day comes, the owners of the cabin still are not there. A few of them decide to head down into the mine, and whenever they get inside, they notice a few dead bodies, and whenever they closely inspect the bodies, they are their own bodies. They are staring at dead versions of themselves. Tons of strange things begin to happen, and none of it makes any sense for the kids still alive. So why are their own dead bodies lying in the mine? Will they make it out of the weekend alive? Number 7. Exam. 2010. In the near future, 8 candidates are in the final stage for the position of CEO's assistant in a pharmaceutical corporation. They are locked in a room, and the invigilator tells them that they have 80 minutes to answer one question. He explains that in the lawless space there are only 3 rules to be followed, otherwise they will be disqualified. They must talk neither to him nor to the armed guard, they must not spoil their piece of paper, and they must not leave the room. He starts the countdown timer, and leaves the room to let them complete the exam. The candidates then discover that they have a blank piece of paper with their numbers only on the front of it. One woman starts writing on the paper and is removed from the room for spoiling the paper, which was against the rules. The other candidates figure out that they are allowed to talk to each other, and they need teamwork to discover the question. The individuals do work together to try and find out what the question may be, but as much as the timer clock gets closer to zero, everyone in the room starts getting more on edge and understands only one of them can get the job in the end. Number 6. Identity. 2003. 10 strangers are brought together during a weather emergency, only to discover a far greater danger awaits them in this suspense drama. A sudden rainstorm in a remote desert town strands a disparate variety of people at a rundown motel with one another. Throughout the story, the timeline jumps between the 10 strangers at the motel and at a psychiatric ward where Malcolm Rivers is having a board meeting determining if he will be given the death penalty, or if he will be declared insane as he murdered 8 people. Back at the motel, Ginny and Lou are a not especially happy pair of young marrieds on their honeymoon. Ed is a bright and resourceful chauffeur working for actress Caroline Suzanne. George York is a concerned husband trying to find help for his wife, Layla Kenzel, who was struck by Ed's limo. Paris is a prostitute who wants a better life for herself. And Rhodes is a police detective who has in his custody Robert Maine, a dangerous and deranged criminal. As the rain pours down and motel manager Larry tries to care for his customers, one by one the unexpected guests begin losing their lives at the hands of a murderer. As the body count mounts, the stranded travelers struggle to find out who the killer is. However, they also learn each of them has a secret, and that their arrival at the motel wasn't a matter of mere chance. And on top of that, what does Malcolm Rivers have to do with anyone at the hotel? Number 5. Flight 7500. 2014. In Los Angeles, the Vista Pacific Flight 7500 departs to Tokyo for a 10-hour flight. The flight attendants Laura Baxter and Susie Lee debrief the passengers, among them Brad and his wife, Pia Martin, that have recently broken up, the newlywed Rick and Liz Lewis that are traveling for a honeymoon trip, and the well-resolved Jacinta Block, who is sat close to Liz and Rick. Laura is having a love affair with the Captain Pete Haining that is married, and her behavior is questioned by Susie. After passing by some turbulence, one passenger named Lance Morrell dies and the crew brings his body to the first-class area so he is out of the way. Then there is a pressure drop in the cabin and Brad helps several passengers how to use the oxygen mask. When the pressure returns to normal, Captain Haining strangely loses contact with ground control. Soon weird things happen on the plane and Brad, Rick, Jacinta, Pia and Liz decide to investigate who Lace really was. They find that he was a dealer of dolls and has a shinigami inside a wooden box on his carry-on. Jacinta explains that the Eastern doll would be equivalent to the Ripper, however she collects souls of those that won't confront their actual deaths. What has this doll done to Flight 7500? Number 4. The Skeleton Key. 2005. Caroline is a 25-year-old hospice worker who cares for the ailing and the elderly, a job she chose to atone for ignoring her own dying father when she was a rock and roll concert manager. After her latest hospice patient passes away, Caroline takes a job in Louisiana caring for stroke victim Ben, who is bedfast and can't speak at all. Caroline becomes suspicious of the house, and Ben's cold wife Violet only adds to the creepy atmosphere that seems to be throughout the southern house. After acquiring a skeleton key for the house, Caroline makes her way into a secret room in the attic where she discovers hair, blood, bones, spells, and other instruments for practicing voodoo magic. Violet says she has never been in the secret room, but that the items probably belong to the original owners, 2 house workers who practiced black magic and were lynched as a result. Noting that Ben had his stroke in the attic after entering the room a few years ago, Caroline is determined to unlock the secrets of the house and rescue Ben from the horrors that hold him captive within. But what Caroline uncovers in the end may have her wishing she never took the job. Number 3. Barbarian. 2022. Tess is in Detroit for a job interview she has on the following Saturday, and when she arrives to her Airbnb Friday night, she is shocked to see that a guy, Keith, is already staying there and he has proof that he booked the rental at the exact address as well. Tess is a little freaked out by it, thinking Keith may not be who he says he is, and she is in a bad part of Detroit, so she is sketched out. Tess tries finding other rentals or hotels, but there is a big convention going on and there are no openings. Keith convinces Tess to sleep in the house for the night, and he will sleep on the couch, being a gentleman. Everything goes fine and Keith doesn't pull any creepy moves on her. But the next day when she gets back from her interview, she ventures downstairs where she finds a dungeon in the basement. When Keith gets back, he goes to check it out as well, and as they are down there, an ugly deformed naked mother grabs Keith and bashes his head to death. Tess is then taken prisoner by the creepy naked grandma, and her only shot at getting out is the owner of the rental, AJ, coming and rescuing her. But AJ has his own problems that he has to deal with too. Number 2. Malignant. 2021. 27 long years after the brutal Simeon Research Hospital incident, Abused Madison wakes up in a hospital in present-day Seattle, but with strangely timed, numbing visions of murder getting in the way of a normal life. More and more, Madison's obscure past emerges, baffling both herself and the local detectives on what could be really happening. Madison must figure out why she is having visions of murder, and she starts wondering to herself if maybe she is the one doing the murdering whenever she has her blackouts. Are these explicitly violent killings figments of Madison's troubled imagination? Either way, someone, or better yet, something, links the past to the present, demanding closure and blood once and for all. Will the cops or Madison first find out what is really at play here? And are you ready for the batshit third act that this movie brings? Number 1. The Green Inferno. 2013. Justine, a college freshman, becomes interested in a social activism group led by Alejandro and his girlfriend Kara. The group plans a trip to the Amazon rainforest to stop a company from logging and obliterating ancient native tribes that live in the area. The goal is to film the logging crews with cell phones and stream footage to raise awareness for the world to see the injustice that is being done. Justine suggests she could bring attention to the issue through her father, an attorney for the United Nations. The operation is funded by a drug dealer named Carlos, who takes the group of students to Peru via plane. They arrive in the Amazon and head to a logging site where they begin their protest, chaining themselves to bulldozers while filming the loggers cutting down trees. A private militia arrives, and the protest receives viral attention on the internet when Justine is nearly killed by one of the militia officers. The group is arrested, but Carlos pays the police to let them go. As the plane leaves, it crashes into the forest, killing Carlos and a few other passengers. The survivors of the plane accident are then taken captive by a local cannibalistic tribe that they were there trying to protect in the first place. They are placed in a cell and one by one are taken out to be dinner for the members of the tribe. Can Justine find her way out of the makeshift cell and get back to America before she becomes a human roast? That is it for this one. Any other crazy wild horror or thriller movies that surprised you near the end? Would love to watch some. Thanks for watching.